Hello everyone, Kenti Tiger here with Bengali Engineering and Play. We are back in Space Engineers doing a little bit of experimenting with the build and repair system. So this is a, I want to call it a comparable mod to the Nanite Control Factories. And the reason why I call it comparable is because it does a lot of the same things. Now this one is considered to be not quite as overpowered as the Nanite Control Factories, and I guess it's kind of 6 of one, half a dozen of the other, whether you really look at Nanite Control Factory as being overkill or not. It probably not quite, which is to say this one, the build and repair system, probably not quite as fast, does not have any upgrade capabilities, so it basically is what it is. Whereas the Nanite Control Factory is a much larger thing. So to put size into the equation here, this is the size of an assembler. So this is one of them right here. As you can see, there's a whole boatload of them on this particular craft. And there's a reason for that, which I'll get into in a minute. So this is basically a 1x1x2 block. So it's the size of an assembler, oxygen tank, blah blah blah. You know, basically the same size as any of those things. As a blast furnace, arc furnace. You know, so not a huge block. The Nanite Control Factory, in contrast, is actually a 2x3x3, so it's a much larger device, much larger block. You can also, on one, there I call it plane of, well, let me, so forgive me that I'm going off screen here for just a second, but this is probably pictures worth 1,000 words. So, oh darn it, I have to get into the right folder here. So I keep all of my blueprints, my personal blueprints, external of here. So, all right, let me grab this, put it in here, paste. All right. And then come back into the game here. So, having described, and I'll get to this thing, this great big monstrosity over here in just a minute too. Alright, Nanite Control standard build. Alright, so what I want to do is align it. So that's what that was all about. And then we'll set it flat. Okay, so not sure where it's getting its power from, but this is the Nanite Control Factory. So comparatively, we have a 1x1x2, and in fact, let me go ahead and, so here's what this looks like. Let me go ahead and turn this over, so we can see approximately what this looks like. Let me float it over here and go up. Alright, so this is the build and repair system called the Nanobot's build and repair system in the workshop. And this is the Nanite Control Factory. Now this particular Nanite Control Factory, so you can see this 3x3x2 grid here, and then you see all these things sticking out on the side. Now those things sticking out on the side are actually upgrade modules. And that's kind of one of the things that I think the community really sees as making this overpowered. Now, it requires a boatload of energy, power to make it work, which is reasonable. It is, after all, nanites, and they would need to have an energy source from somewhere. But all kinds of different upgrade modules, and I'll let you look at either one of those. I think if you go Nanite, or Nanobot, I guess, Nano or Nana, then you're going to find them in the Space Engineers Steam Workshop, either one of those. So why is this thing considered to be overpowered is because by the time you get all these different upgrades in, and obviously because of the upgrade modules, you have 12 different upgrade modules. So you see 3 on each side. Obviously we can't see the backside there. Kind of see the backside. But a lot of flexibility. While it can do virtually everything stock, brand new, out of the box, as it says on the tin, you can do these upgrade modules, which kind of change its functionality quite a bit, or rather its capabilities quite a bit. So you can do deconstruction, you can do construction, you can do kind of just about anything. This particular thing, which you saw, I just pasted it in the world here, is kind of my standard build. It's what I decided was the most flexible if I wanted to build something like a shipyard. And what I mean by shipyard is something that can disassemble as easy as it can assemble. So that was this whole idea. So I came up with a plan of these upgrade modules that seemed to fit that concept of a universal, efficient application of everything. So the only thing this thing cannot do inherently is mining. Now this particular one is capable of mining if you have the specialized upgrade modules put onto it. So Nanite Control Factory versus the Nanobot build and repair system. So the build and repair system obviously does not have any upgrades with it yet. It may in the future. But these do similar things. They can all remote grind. They can all weld, which is, after all, their function. It's to make it a lot simpler. They obviously have connection points here. I'm going to go under to prove that this guy as well has a connection port. So you connect that into your conveyor system, and it will pull parts as it needs to do what it does. So basically, it pulls those parts in, and then the nanites or nanobots will go out and do the welding. If it is actually pulling materials in, then the nanobots or nanites will do the grinding. It will pull that that part, the components that are remaining, and push them into the storage that either one of these particular devices has. And then you can pull them on into inventory. If it gets full, it pushes them into inventory just like any other device on the network. What is the purpose of this particular vessel? Now, I have my favorite space engineers, YouTubers that I watch regularly. I think the two that I watch the most frequently, not necessarily my favorites, but my favorites, are Captain Shack on XP Gamers and Wasted Space on Wasted Space. And so they are pretty flexible in how they do things. They are very much experimenters. Wasted Space much more so than Captain Shack. Captain Shack is just there having fun. So trying everything just to see what will happen, kind of a thing. Wasted Space goes a lot more into the detail. He does tutorials. He does a couple different things like a top engineer. So he kind of gets in and does a lot different flavors of space engineers. But both of them actually are using this particular mod. And I wanted to try it out from the perspective of one of my things that I like to do, especially when I'm underway and getting a little bored. We'll pull out Space Engineers and do something unique. This big, huge monstrosity over here actually was the resultant of that at one time. So let me float over here and we'll go ahead and look at that. So this was a gigantic mobile grinder. So inside of here, as you can see, are ion thrusters and everything. So this is a bit dated. It's using the twin grinders here, which have a little better range, and so it is intended to be able to fly through space and effectively up to structures, other vessels, and grind them down in a very mobile fashion. So it's basically a huge grinder which you fly around to capture whatever. Old, a lot more blocky design than some of the designs I've done more recently, but so grinder nonetheless. So where was I going with this? Well, the basic structure of this particular craft is a bit similar to something I saw on Wasted Stream. The Uncooperative Survival is what he calls that particular series. I think they're up to number 14 or 15 now in the series. Kind of a very impromptu methodology that they use, and he's got guests with him that are familiar people on any of the various streams. So I saw this structure and was rather fascinated by it, and was thinking, you know, I could have some real fun with that. So I want to do a mock-up of that and kind of build similarly, and this is what I ended up coming up with. And my concept is essentially the same thing. So this is a mobile grinding or building platform, depending on what you want. So it's very similar to this thing, other than this only grinds. This thing can grind and build. So obviously your building is going to be limited to the components that you have on hand, but if you do enough grinding ahead of time, then most likely you're going to end up with a whole lot of parts and pieces, and with those parts and pieces you will be able to do an awful lot of welding as well. So one of the things, in fact we'll go ahead and jump into these things so you can see some of the configuration here. So I have everything turned off right now. I've got all of the modules set up. Build-in repair system is all in a group, so I can turn them all on or off simultaneously. Oops, sorry. Let me do some house cleaning here. Put some more batteries in. So off and off, and let me go ahead and select. Changing ownership to me because it can do all kinds of really strange things. So my concept behind a ship is that I have all my basic necessities. I tend to do hydrogen as my propulsion because hydrogen is slightly more powerful than any of the other thrusters. Hydrogen is also the only thruster that you can do on planets as well as in space. And obviously there's efficiencies that change a little bit, whereas the ion and atmospherics are respectively for space and planets. So while they are a little bit more efficient in their home environment, they are completely inefficient in the opposite. So obviously atmospheric thrusters need atmosphere to function, so they do absolutely nothing in space. Likewise, ions do very, very, very little when it comes to planets. So being in a gravity well. So I tend to stick with hydrogen. So I have all my different directions, including big thrusters, both forward and aft. So side thrusters, there's actually 4 in every direction, or rather 8 on each side. 8 up, 8 down, and then yep, the 2 forward now. Actually 9, I guess, on each side, because I've got the ones on the side out there too. Reactors, batteries. I've got a remote control. I've got an antenna here, and then containers down the center. I put connectors on the sides, so port and starboard side. One forward, one aft. Obviously, you can see here, and that's about it. Everything else is the Nanite Control, or rather the Nanobot factories, and there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So there are 12 in every quadrant, so 24 on every side. Is that right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yes. So 24 on each side, so 48 units total here, which should be able to do quite a bit. So I think theoretically each Nanobot stream can do 1 block at a time. So if everything works, then I should be able to do 48 blocks simultaneously. Now, I don't know if the script would actually allow for that. I don't know exactly how these function. But they work pretty well using 3 or 4 of them, so I think with 48 of them they'll either totally crash the game or we'll have a lot of fun. Now, I did a little bit of the reason why it says 52 for this particular one. These are not numbered in sequence, so as I was experimenting and building, I ended up building a couple, then destroying a couple, then building a couple, and figuring out how I really wanted to put things in here. So, what did I want to show you here? So this is currently off. The reason why it's off is because it does some unpredictable things, or not so much unpredictable, that's the wrong term, is until you get this set up, it may not do what you want it to do. So getting it set up before you turn it on might be a good idea. So help others. What does help others mean? That means everybody who's in your faction, this will work for. Okay. So otherwise it will just work on the things that you own. Build new. So like it says here, when checked, the build and repair system will also construct projected blocks. Now this comes in really handy because you could actually build your ship, take a blueprint of that ship, put it in a projector, and then if you were to sustain damage on your ship, then this would actually rebuild some of those pieces off your ship. So it can be a really good thing. All right, fly mode versus walk mode. Walk mode is it will do work, grinding or welding on the grid to which it's connected. Okay, or on which it's connected, depending on how you want to look at that. Fly mode is it will operate in the vicinity of, which you can specify below. We'll get to that in a moment. Work mode, we have I think 3 different modes here. Weld before we grind before we weld, or grind if weld gets stuck. So which one do you want to do? If weld gets stuck, I'm not sure why weld would get stuck other than we ran out of parts. So in my case, I did weld before grind. So maybe that would be a better one. Grind if weld gets stuck otherwise. Ignore color. This is one of the features that this has, or rather 2 of the features that this one has that the Nanite Control Factories do not. Okay, so ignore color. So I can set an ignore color. Did I pick these particular colors at random? No, I did not. These are actually the colors that Wasted Space and company are using, and they make sense. Easy to remember kind of colors. So 113 versus 313. 313 is the most hideous shade of pink you will ever see in Space Engineers, so I think that's why they used it. And I think this is kind of a grayish color. So ignore color is you can paint blocks to different colors if you own them or if they are part of your faction. And if you are grinding or welding, then it will ignore all the blocks of this color. So if you're grinding something down, you're grinding pieces down, and you want it to ignore those particular blocks, then you use the ignore color. Grind. As the folks there on Wasted Space Stream have demonstrated, having a grinding color is amazingly flexible. So you just paint the block this color, and the build and repair system will grind that block down for you. So really, really neat. Janitor mode is new. There's still some experimenting goes. So Janitor grinds enemy blocks. So the whole point of this is yet another feature that is not available on the Nanite Control Factory. So you can literally pull up beside an enemy craft and grind it down. Just by doing this, as long as it's in range, it will start going. It won't even ask you, it will just start doing it. So again, can be good and bad. If you want to salvage something that you have gone out and acquired, then it's still an enemy. Maybe you don't want to do that. Grind not owned blocks. So blocks without an owner, so owned by nobody, in other words, then this will start grinding those. So in this case, I have it turned off. There may be a reason why you'll want to do that, but again, it can get you into trouble. Again, if you did a build or something and you forgot to set everything as owner me, then it might start grinding pieces down that you did not want to have it grind down. So grind neutral blocks. The system will grind also blocks owned by neutrals, factions not at war. So goods and bads here. You may want to do this if you happen to capture a ship or something like that, but grind use enable settings. I'm not sure entirely what this means. And it might just be build repair priority and grind priority. It might be because of these is what it's really using. So I think if you have this off, then it will just grind everything, or if you turn it on, it will actually only grind these, but I don't know if that's absolutely a fact. And then you have your build repair priority, which you can set up, down, enable, disable. So if I want to do click on any one of these, I can enable or disable that, or I can move that up or down on the priority list. The grind, obviously the same kind of thing. Collection. So the janitor mode will actually collect the things that are around you. And you can decide whether you want to collect different things, gravel, stone, or ingot materials. Collect only if idle, so if it's grinding or welding, it will not collect. And push ingot or ore immediately. When checked, the system will push ingot ore immediately to the connected conveyors. And you can show areas, so this is like display on HUD. And this is where you actually select the area. I don't remember what the sound volume was, but I remember originally this kind of had some issues, so they set it down to, I think it was like 15%, and that seemed to be a little better. Controlled by the script, don't know exactly what this is. It just says, when checked, the system will not build repair blocks automatically. Each block has to be picked by calling script functions. So I'm leaving that unchecked. This in this case says block is not ready, and I'm presuming it's not ready because hey, it's turned off. So what do I want to do? Let's see if that actually is missing items. Yeah, so it went active there. So in this case, I want to use this just to be playing around with things. P, what I want to do here is I'm going to set a particular color. So I'm going to use this one. The color that I want to use is okay, 313 is the color. 31431. See if I can get to there's 313, and then saturation 100 100. So 313 100 100. So is that a really just hideous hot pink or not? Okay. So even though there's absolutely nothing wrong with this, and I probably own this thing, but let's go ahead and have a look just to see. I think I own this. I appear to own this. Yes. The only other thing I should look at and see, oh, there's a whole bunch of stuff in here. Okay, so the question is, do I have room in my inventory for very much of this stuff? And I don't know if I do or not. It's going to take me a while to transfer a lot of this stuff over. So I don't know how much I will be able to do. This current build, which is why I will not post this just yet up on the Steam Workshop, is it has a lot of KentiMod blocks in it. So I don't tend to post anything. I forgot to change this. So KTC build and repair system utility. Okay. Inventory. So I need to find a container large 06, which is the one all the way aft. So let's go ahead and put that there. I don't know how many of these things will actually, I didn't want to do that, collect. So let me take, darn it. I might just end up not even worrying about this because, oh, why did that do that? Huh, that was weird. So it's actually pulling in that stuff from somewhere. All right, so 2. You can see there's that hideous thing. And if we do a Control Shift Paste, we will change the entire grid over to that particular color, because I want to dismantle this whole thing. So we have to be within 75 meters of these different things to make this work. So what I'm going to do is get into here. If there's anything I need to do is actually groups and turn the modules on or off. I'm going to go ahead and put those right there, and we're going to do on or off. So in my case, I'm going to, oh, you know what I forgot? T, get out of here. Imagine I forgot one of the most basic things, which is gyros. So, because eventually I would like to create one of these that is vanilla, I'm going to go ahead and put vanilla gyros on here, provided there they are, provided I can find them. So the question is, how many gyros do I really need? I am going to, so there's going to be, so there are 2 because I am mirroring. There's 2, and I think I'm going to put 2 more forward here. So there's those, and we'll put 2 more up here. So technically we now have 8 gyros. I think 8 will be enough, but let me go ahead and test that. And once I test that, then I will actually put them in a group. Alright, so not the most responsive, so let's go ahead and put the other 4 on, which then makes this entirely symmetrical, so all of the spaces available are going to be in use here. So let me look, yes, all those facing forward, and these here also facing forward. Alright, so there is 12 gyros now on this particular monster. So we will go back into the cockpit here. T, we're going to go into K, which will allow me to go into the control panel, and I'm going to, so we're going to do a control A, which is to highlight everything. I want to change this to a me. Then I'm going to actually create the gyro group, gyros, and save. And then I'm going to turn that off on the toolbar. No reason to do that, to see those on there, because I can work with all those as a group. So there's my gyros group, and got rid of everything else. Alright, now that I actually have gyro control, imagine that, then we will go over here. I want to face this. Now this has got a little bit too much thrust here. And that's not totally without reason. And then I'm going to turn them on. And I want to watch and see what happens here. So we can see, it's kind of hard to see, but you can see the nanite, the little sparkles on the screen here are going out and retrieving things. So it looks like they're going to the far side away, and then eventually they will have this thing entirely dismantled. So what I do not know about this particular mod is it should clean up everything, as in when it breaks down the containers that are in this vessel, then are those parts just going to spill out everywhere, or will it actually clean all of those up? Obviously performance issues, because we're taxing everything pretty heavily. So I know this is somewhat like watching grass grow, and of course got into, there we go. That way I don't have sun blinding everyone's eyes here. So you can see this, this does, so shift F1, right? There's a control F1, shift F1. There we go, show all warnings, show warning in game. I really don't want to see that in game. Nanobot. Yeah, slowing down your mod, obviously good reason. The official upload, now I don't have this active, so I don't know how this could possibly be slowing down the game. They said it slowed it down 10 minutes ago. It was a lot more than 10 minutes ago that I was doing the other thing. So mid-spaces, helper commands, energy shields, not even using the energy shields in this case, so I don't know why. Not sure why. 3 hours and 42 minutes ago, which could be maybe remembering things from update of individual blocks is causing a lot of issues up to a minute ago. So anyway, Nanobot building. All right. So this is pulling a lot of things apart. This is probably an elsewhere container. Containers, inventory. Okay, so we can actually watch the nanobots take materials out here, which is really cool. So this particular thing was shielded, whereas my little craft here is not shielded. So that's one of the downsides. It's also not armed. So for those of you who like having things that are armed, this guy is not armed. Alright, and one of the other things I'm going to do is go over here and do the same thing. So we're going to do a 5 just because that's a convenient block that I have up there. And I want to dismantle this whole thing. So it's Control, Shift, and Paste Color, which is your center button on your mouse, your wheel usually you can push. So that's my grind color. So all of these things are set to grind. Oh, except for... Okay, well, we'll start there. So apparently that grind color... Uh-oh, where did the ship go? There it is. Alright, so that successfully ground down everything and actually did not take very long at all. Took a little less time than I was thinking it would. So let me turn over here and get kind of close. So as long as you are within that radius, or actually it's a box, then it should be, as you can see, it's doing pretty quickly. Yep, everything. Alright, so the rotor head in this case is gone. So we're going to try that there. Rotor head. And then I'm going to do a Control, Shift, and Paste. Paste color, rather. So it should start dismantling everything. Again, kind of watching grass grow here just a little bit. So what I'm going to do is get in here and start piloting. Change my orientation here just a little bit. In fact, let me go out here first. Of course, if you're on a planet, then strange things happen because things fall in a gravity well. So they might actually fall out of range in some cases. So I guess that's not working quite how I intended. I'm not sure how it prioritizes. I was thinking it would focus on the distance and then work towards the center, but apparently it's kind of random how it does things. But I'm not sure exactly how random. So I'm watching the shadow, so I can't really see what's going on. Okay, so this thing is gone now. So now we are really at the mercy of distance. Alright, so this portion is gone. spinning around here. Oh, darn. Got kind of close. Alright. So that looks like pretty much everything from that little project. To the next one. So, you can see how really very effective this thing is. So, my concept here was having something that's fairly mobile that could go out and capture or grind down like cargo vessels. So, if you turned on the cargo ships, then you would see those occasionally, or if you had like the exploration mod on, then you could grind down an awful lot of stuff and just collect to your heart's content. So the neat thing about the Explorers mod, it spawns things in frequently. Whereas the cargo ships, the cargo vessels, in the vanilla game, doesn't really do that nearly as quickly. So it's like every 10 minutes or something, it will spawn something in. Anyway, that was kind of the demonstration that I wanted to do, and I guess a little bit of a tutorial. So let me jump out of this again. Just kind of demonstrating the mod. You know what? Let me go ahead and make this a full 16, because I do have some room. Don't have an infinite amount of room. And in fact, I've got an antenna on this other side, so that's forward. So it will not put them everywhere, but we will put them most everywhere. So we have actually one less than symmetrical gyros, but because gyros actually act upon the center mass rather than, or the center of mass, so you see my antenna is over here, KentiMod antenna there. So let me go ahead and jump back in here once again, and K, and then we'll add these gyroscopes. Actually, a Control A, do a me, yes, and gyroscopes. Darn it. Oh darn. Okay, I'm having trouble. Gyros, control, save, and we're going to turn off and turn off. There we go. Now I got myself unscrewed. Alright, so I'm going to do some things off screen. Obviously I want to set up my toolbars, which aren't set up here. So what we're going to do is I'm going to go off screen, set up my toolbars, and then actually turn on the exploration mod, which will then put all kinds of stuff in the world. And it does create some problems, because it can spawn stuff faster than you can deal with it, and it can really get your game laggy when you have 20 or 30 different items spawned in. So it can be kind of interesting. So using this particular ship is going to be a little bit of a fun, and we might actually record that one too. So this may be part one, which is just kind of the building and demonstration and proof of concept, which I think we have done, and then we'll try to do some real world application in the next video. So this is Kenti Tiger signing off, and we will see you next time.